So you look at the market, I mean, I suppose it's a risk-off trade, and this tit-for-tat between the US and China and not giving investors globally something to cheer about, and we see it playing out in the JSE.
Well, certainly, I think we are seeing that dichotomy between kind of the risk on, risk off playing out, and we're seeing that in the kind of the flows between the emerging markets and the developed markets. So the last couple of years, it's really been a developed market story, and emerging markets, for 2018 were under an enormous amount of pressure. We have seen that moderate to an extent. I mean, obviously, we've still got a lot of issues globally. We've got obviously the trade wars that you've mentioned. We've got kind of the concerns around Brexit as well. We've got the US government shutdown. So there's a lot playing out. But what we've also got is a moderation just in those expectations of interest rate hikes coming out of the US Federal Reserve. And that in itself does seem to be shifting flows towards the emerging market, certainly the emerging market trackers. So we're seeing some of the US listed emerging market trackers picking up flows as well. So certainly maybe a little bit more optimistic about emerging markets, but today certainly jitters to kind of taking hold and seeing Asia down this morning. That Tencent falling a little bit. That was more company specific,
yep.
But that translating into our market via Naspers, and generally our market coming off a little bit. Maybe a little bit to do with the stronger rand as well.
You speak about company specific. One good example of that is what happened to Vodacom today. I mean, that share price really taking a bit of a hit, down just below 6%. Customer numbers locally not impressive, and I see the market not liking that.
No, absolutely, and I think it was also potentially can be to blame on management's guidance. So I saw a note this morning just coming out saying that the credibility of Vodacom management, called into question a little bit by the investment community, saying that they were guiding for a much more solid quarter, and certainly the numbers not reflecting that. So internationally they did fairly well. So we saw international service revenue up just over 13%, but locally an absolutely dismal performance, and that putting the stock under a lot of pressure. So we closed, it was around 7% down for the day.
Yep.
And I mean, it was a big sell-off, and that kind of stock movement is coming from, again, kind of a lack of clarity on those numbers beforehand. And the kind of reason, and I want to give it to you exactly, for the slumps that management gave for South Africa specifically, was an optimizing of promotional data bundles, bundle allocations. Now that says that it's the South African consumer that's under a lot of pressure, looking at the potential promotions, and especially it was the summer gigs promotion, and kind of trying to maximize the savings. And this is speaking to a weaker consumer in South Africa, a very, very competitive environment, and essentially what we look at is basically price elasticity. We're seeing none of it in Vodacom's results, and any sort of increase in prices will mean lost customers. So it's a difficult place for our telcos to operate in. It's competitive. It's probably better for the consumer because I think we're going to get better deals, but certainly not good for investors in South African telcos.
And I see MTN also taking that downward trend today. I mean, that share also down. But I want to talk about Anglo American. I mean, a solid trading update from them, but I saw the share price in the negative for some time today. Why is that?
Yeah, so it was interesting because that seemed, it was a production report update, and it seemed to come in, I think, ahead of most people's expectation. The only two real, I suppose, concerns in the report were iron ore that was under a little bit of pressure. So we saw basically the Kumba business production down about 13%, but that was, I think, priced into the market already. Some good news coming out of Minas Rio in the iron ore operation in South America, that coming back on stream in the final quarter. So I think we can expect a rebound in that production number. You look at the diamonds from the De Beers business, that up nicely. I think that came in ahead of expectations. Copper also very strong. Platinum, the forward guidance for the platinum and palladium businesses via Amplats was a little bit softer than I think the market expected, but not dramatically so. I would have probably expected to see that stock up on the back of it, and I think it was probably just global commodity prices and as you say, the fears around the trade war and what that could potentially mean for commodity prices that kept the stock a little bit subdued.
I've got a few more seconds. I just want to get your thought on this. I mean, you had retailers taking a hit, not only this week, but for some time this month. Massmart, Woolworths, Mr. Price just saw some heavy, depressing scenes this week on the stock market. I mean, this is really an indication it's a competitive environment out there. The economy is weak. Retailers really took a hit from that.
No, and I think some of it was, again, the market almost misjudging how much of that Black Friday and Cyber Monday specials were going to price into December. So if you look at our latest retail sales numbers, they were November numbers, and they were fairly strong. They came in ahead of expectations. Then I think that almost lifted the market's view of what the retailers could potentially report in January. And we've seen a lot weaker reports. I mean, none of them are shooting the lights out. They're very, very, very subdued kind of numbers. And it speaks to us to say, because those retail updates are just including the December month as well, we've seen a lot of cannibalization as consumers have shifted their spending to November instead of spending in December. And I think the South African consumer is very, very savvy. We look for deals, and that I think is just, it's I think investors and traders have just been caught on the wrong foot on that, and that's again why you're seeing these big price movements.
Well, thanks very much indeed. That was Gary Boyson there from Rand Swiss. Thanks indeed, Gary, for coming through.